I spend a lot of time being asked, oh, you like games? What sort of games do you like? And I always answer 2D platformers. And then anyone asking me the question who is under the age of 25 looks confused because my answer does not contain any of the following words: Call, Souls, Assassins, Cry, Battlefield, Dark, Duty, Far, Creed, or Of. I'm joking, you can put those down again. I know that people nowadays play a whole range of games, but it does feel like most of the big budget AAA titles are all about these open world, giant, 50-hour long games. And I mean, I'm 38, I don't have that kind of time to invest in one game. I miss the more focused attitude of a more traditional linear game, a game that has a beginning and a middle and an end. What happened to those? And that's probably why I love the 2D platformers, because a 2D platformer is usually very linear indeed. You start at the beginning and then you finish the game when you get to the end. So I thought I'd give you a quick rundown of my favourite 2D platformers of all time, but with one major exception. This list will contain absolutely no Mario or Sonic games. That's not to say I don't like them, I love them. In fact, some of them are my favourite games of all time. But if I was just including them, 90% of the list would be Mario or Sonic games. And that's like that time a couple of years ago when 90% of the top 40 chart was every song from an Ed Sheeran album. It's boring, it's dull, it's not entertaining. Those three words mean the same thing, but my point is, for you the viewer, you don't want to hear about lots of Mario games and lots of Sonic games. Well, maybe you do, but if you do, I'll do other videos about that later on. But for now, this is my top 10 favourite 2D platformers that do not contain Mario or Sonic in any way. Just two quick notes before we start. I have limited this to one game per franchise. There wasn't a lot of competition, but I have. And bear in mind, these are my favourites, these are my choices. I haven't played every 2D platformer out there. I'm sure there are lots that I haven't mentioned that might be worthy, and one day, who knows, maybe I'll play them. But for now, let's go. Number 10. VVVVVV is a fun game. I mean, that sums it up quite nicely. I talked about the game a lot in my best games of 2016 list a couple of years ago, so there's not much more to add here. The simple premise and retro graphical style will make it very easy for you to pick up and play, and since it's regularly available in Steam sales, Humble Bundles, etc., you'd be foolish not to pick it up, although do buy it on something with a physical controller. It's pretty hard to play on a smartphone. It's easy to play, it's tough to master, and with a selection of additional challenges to try and complete once you've played through the entire story, what more could you want? Number 9. Have you ever wanted to be an egg that explores a treehouse village and arbitrarily collects stuff? Then this is the game for you. A fantastic, slow-paced, exploratory, puzzle-based platformer, Fantastic Dizzy is best played if you have a large amount of free time, as well as several sheets of paper and a pen, because you're going to want to make a map. The game world feels very large, although it's not particularly large really, and is full of items you can pick up, most of which are important. But you can only carry 3 at a time, which is why you do, and I'll say it again, you need to make your own map. Because if you don't mark down everything that you do, then you're going to spend most of your time searching every screen in a panic looking for that key you put down an hour ago. The game isn't an adrenaline rush of excitement, it's a relaxing yet brilliant exploration of a village obsessed with egg puns. So set aside some time and really enjoy it. And if you don't own Fantastic Dizzy, just find another Dizzy game. There are plenty of them out there, and they all have their charm. I just love Fantastic Dizzy the most as it's for the Mega Drive, and it works really well for a fabulous console gaming experience. Interestingly, while I was doing this, I looked at my old review for this game. Turns out I only gave it 7 out of 10. Don't know what bad mood I was in that day, bad form. Number 8.
I'm Charles Martinet, and now it's time for Bit Trip Presents Runner 2, Future Legend of Rhythm Alien.
Is this a platformer? It's a tough answer, because it's definitely part platformer, but it's also part endless runner and part rhythm game. However, it makes it onto the list because it's just such an entertaining game. The original Bit Trip Runner was good, but it wasn't the best of the Bit Trip series, so I did think it was strange they decided to make a sequel to that particular one, but I'm so glad that they did. There are a few better ways to while away a few minutes than by playing this very strange game, and you may find that you're in deep before you realise it. It's beautiful to play, and the short levels and instant restarts mean that you can sink hours into trying to complete a frustratingly complicated level. I have lost more time than I ever want to admit to this game, because it's a perfect just one more go kind of game. Restarting a level takes less time than saying the words restarting a level just took me at the start of this sentence, and as it has divorced itself from the classic yet archaic live system that many other modern 2D platformers still cling to, you'll lose all track of time when you're trying desperately to complete just one more level. Number 7. In direct contrast to the previous entry, Castlevania 4 is a slow-paced, methodical platformer that involves combat, exploring, and negotiating some of the trickiest architecture you've ever encountered. And it's such fun! It's a more combat-heavy platformer than any of the others I've mentioned so far, but who doesn't enjoy slaughtering skeletons as they approach you slowly, yet firmly? No! Bad skeletons. It's got puzzles and bosses and encourages exploration and careful movement. The original Castlevania was such a trendsetter in that respect that part of its name became used in a whole genre classification in itself, Metroidvania, a term coined to describe exploration-heavy 2D platformers. It does share many similarities with the Metroid series, but I enjoy it more, which is why this ended up on my list and no Metroid game did. One aspect where Castlevania comes into its own is the music. The soundtrack for Super Castlevania 4 is so good that I seriously considered buying the gorgeous vinyl version from Mondo Records, so I could just put it on and listen to it in all its glory. In fact, although I knew I liked this game, I'd forgotten how much. I ended up playing the entire game while I was capturing footage from it. Sadly, it is an expensive game to buy in its original form, but it is on the mini SNES, so here's hoping for a renaissance soon. In fact, given the recent addition of the Belmonts to Nintendo's Super Smash Bros. Franchise, I've got my fingers crossed for a Castlevania collection on the Switch. Come on, Nintendo and Konami, make that happen. Please. Number 6. Now, it's important to note that this is the Mega Drive version of Aladdin, which is the version that I've played the most. I do own the SNES version, which is an entirely different game due to complicated licensing agreements from the 1990s, but the Mega Drive version is the one that has a special place in my heart. In a time when Disney films could do no wrong, Virgin Games made some superb platformers from the same subject material. Their Lion King game is hugely fun, but Aladdin's definitely the best. With graphics that flat out look like a Disney film, tight controls and familiar levels, this game appeals directly to the Aladdin fan inside of us all as we journey through the ups and downs of the story before confronting Jafar. And yes, I even like the magic carpet escape level. I know many hate it or find it hard, but it's a perfect piece of gaming adrenaline as far as I'm concerned. In fact, the entire game is challenging but perfect for me, and I can't get enough of it whenever I replay it. And I've not even mentioned the music. The 16-bit versions of classic Aladdin tunes are absolutely outstanding. This game is one of the pinnacles of the Mega Drive as far as I'm concerned. It deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as such stone-cold classics as Sonic the Hedgehog, Micro Machines 2 and Streets of Rage, as one of the best games on the system. Number 5. Flashback. I've talked about this game before, back when this YouTube channel was just a blog. Flashback was one of my greatest surprises. I'd made an assumption that it would have aged terribly and that I would be bitterly disappointed. And instead, I was enraptured and enthralled, and my opinion's not changed in the last few years. I shouldn't like this game. It's slow, methodical, and your character is stiff and has very specific moves, none of which sounds like a smooth, fluid gaming scenario. But it all holds together so bloody perfectly. Okay, so I am a big sci-fi fan, which does of course help, and I really like the minimalist but engrossing art style and music. And basically, once I start playing this, I really can't stop. I don't know how best to describe it to you if you haven't played it, and I don't mean the 2013 remake, which I'm told was terrible. The original game needs to be played. Flashback is to 2D platformers what Beneath a Steel Sky was to point-and-click games. It took a genre that was traditionally quite cartoony and immature and made some incredibly engrossing adult entertainment out of it. That's adult entertainment, not adult entertainment, which is something entirely different and I'm not going into here. Also, this game is one of the few on this list that's still readily available. You can buy it right now on the Nintendo Switch, either in digital or physical form, and it's completely worth it. Number 4. I was never a Rayman fan in my youth. I've mentioned before there was a big jump in my gaming history where I stopped playing games around the time the original PlayStation came out. I didn't get back into it until late in the GameCube's life cycle, so I missed Rayman completely the first time around. I didn't play the original, Rayman 2 or Rayman 3, but my wife did. So when we got our Xbox 360, she said we should get Rayman Origins, so we did. And do you know what? I really enjoyed it. And then Rayman Legends came out on the Wii U, and that was even bloody better. Lots of the other platforms I've spoken about are based on slow, methodical platforming, but Rayman takes that idea, looks at it briefly, tears it into 17 pieces and flings it out of the window. For a lot of these levels you need to run fast, and I bloody love it. I mean, I could spend ages telling you how gorgeous the graphics are, how infectious the music is, and how it's really nice to have a co-op 2D platformer where it's easy to work together instead of easy to kill each other by accident. And yes, I'm talking to you, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. And all of that is true, but the best way to describe this game is that it's like a candy cane that's been sharpened and stabbed in your heart, injecting you with pure sugar and overexcitement. It's one of those games that makes you feel like a child, but the difficulty level is not as easy as you would imagine. It'll take you a good while to complete, so you better start now. Number 3. Logically, this game should not be as high in this countdown as it is. If you look at it, it's a very basic flick-screen 2D platformer. The only actions in this game are walking, running, jumping and sword fighting. And yet it's one of the most engrossing platformers I have ever played. And yes, there's a huge part of that that's nostalgia goggles, I'm sure. I played this on my original PC with a CGA monitor, so it looked terrible. But I never stopped playing it. And I can't really tell you why, just sitting down to play it again today reminds me of the sheer enjoyment I got out of this game. The moment it loads up, I can't help but smile. And this isn't a flashback situation where the plot is engrossing. It's not a Rayman situation where the excitement is dialed up to 11. This is just a pure platforming experience with a countdown. And the countdown plays a big part of it. You have one real time hour to complete this game, and no matter how many times you die, the clock doesn't reset. So once you've started, you've got to push on to finish it. Can you complete it within the time? I hope you can. The mechanics are so simple that this game should have been supplanted in my affections by better, more complicated games. But it hasn't been. And that's because its charm lies in the simplicity of it. Play it now. You can find it for free on PC to be played via DOSBox, and it's been ported to at least 20 different platforms over the years. In fact, the Wikipedia article tells me I can get the Game Boy Color version on my 3DS, so I know what I'll be playing next time I'm away from home. Number 2. There are many people who will insist that the Donkey Kong Country games get better with each sequel, but I hate to inform you, that's not true. The first is the best, pure and simple. Yes, the newer iterations, Donkey Kong Country Returns and Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, have charm by the bucket load and are fabulous games in their own right, but the SNES original is just pure platforming perfection. I raved about this game a lot on my video reviewing the mini SNES, and I'm not sure what else I can add here. The pairing of Donkey and Diddy is perfect, especially as it serves as a visual representation of how much health you have left, and aesthetically the game is an absolute beauty. The music is divine, the graphics are beautiful, what more could you want? I've played through Donkey Kong Country countless times, and I predict I will play through it countless more. I own 2 copies of it at present, and I am desperate to find a fully complete in-box copy to sit as the pinnacle of my SNES collection. I don't really know what else to say. The gameplay is perfect, the difficulty level is perfect. This is an almost perfect game. number 1. So, if Donkey Kong Country is perfect, what's better than perfect? Well, it's this game. It's Shovel Knight. Where do I start with Shovel Knight? I freaking love this game. I love it so much that I own it twice so far. Once on Wii U as a digital copy and once on PS4 as a physical copy. And I'm considering buying it for Switch 2 so that I can play it on the go, especially as later on this year they're bringing out the complete version on a physical cartridge with all of the DLC on it. I can't stop playing this game. I've completed the Shovel Knight campaign several times and I always want to come back and play it again immediately when I'm done. What is it that makes it so good, I hear you ask? And the honest answer is, I don't really know. There's just something about it. The music is amazing. You'll notice that a lot of my videos utilise little snippets of Shovel Knight music in the background because it's brilliant. The graphics are brilliantly retro yet also detailed. The story is fun, the dialogue is hilarious, but the real answer is that the gameplay is simply some of the best 2D platforming gameplay you will ever encounter. The shovel mechanics are perfect. Whether you are bouncing off things, or digging up things, or attacking things, you always feel in control, and any mistakes you make are your own fault. The controls are tight, the level designs are beautiful and challenging. Each world is different enough that you need to adapt to its own design and foibles, and make sure you're approaching every challenge in the best possible way. It is so good that I dream of a proper sequel. There's been lots of DLC, the developer's been very generous on that point of view, but all of those are centred around playing as other characters, and while that's fun, I've never felt the urge to press on and complete all of the DLC. In fact, whenever I try, I find myself stopping and going back to playing Shovel Knight's campaign yet again. This game is the most perfect 2D platformer that's been released in the last 10 years that I have played, and if you've never played it, I would strongly encourage you to do so. And there you have it. Those are my top 10 2D platformers that do not feature Mario or Sonic. Do you agree? Have I missed one that should be on the list? Please do let me know. You can leave a comment on the video, you can find me on Twitter, you can find the Hardcore Brawny page on Facebook. I'm easy to find. Details in the description. Thanks for watching and have a great day.